Hello and welcome back to Dr. English.
It's wonderful to be here.
I am your host, and honestly, I have been looking forward to this specific deep dive all week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we are back with another session where we take a massive stack of articles, research papers, all this data, and we try to distill it down into something that actually makes sense.
And today's topic is a bit of a special one.
It really is. And as always, the goal here is twofold. We want to make you smarter about the world, specifically American culture, but we also want to help you master the English language by seeing how it's actually used in a high-level conversation.
Right. We're not doing textbook grammar drills.
No, not at all. We are looking at how language evolves right alongside society. And to help me do that, to help me parse through all this data, I am joined by our expert.
And you're right. Today we're looking at something that is literally sleeping on the sofas of about 70% of our listeners right now.
That is a generous statistic, but I think you are probably right.
Yeah.
We are talking about the American petonomy.
Petonomy.
Now, right off the bat, that title caught my eye when I was reviewing the source material. It's obviously a made-up word.
Well, absolutely. It's not something you would have found in a dictionary 20 years ago.
Not a chance.
No. It's what linguists call a portmanteau.
A portmanteau, okay.
Yeah, that's a term for when you smash two words together to create a new meaning. In this case, we're blending pet and economy.
Pet and economy. Makes sense.
But it's more than just a clever buzzword. It signals a shift in how, Wall Street and sociologists are viewing this whole sector.
So it's a serious term.
It is.
Yeah.
It implies that the business of animals is so large, so complex, and so integral to the nation's financial health that it functions as an economy of its own.
Wow. Not just a hobby anymore.
Not at all. It's a financial ecosystem.
And that aligns with what I'm seeing just walking down the street. We're recording this in early 2026. And the landscape of pet ownership, it just feels fundamentally different than it did even 5 or 6 years ago.
It's a massive change.
I mean, I remember when having a dog just meant you had a scruffy buddy to go throw a tennis ball with in the backyard.
Sure.
Now it feels like a lifestyle statement. It feels, I don't know, like an identity.
It is absolutely a sociological shift. It's a redefinition of the family unit.
A redefinition. Okay.
And just to ground this in some hard numbers, because I know we like to start with the data.
Please.
Let's look at the scale of this. As of early 2026, the research indicates that 94 million U.S. households own at least one pet.
94 million. I want to pause on that for a second because numbers that big can kind of lose their meaning,
Yeah.
That is roughly 70% of the entire U.S. population. So if you're an immigrant moving to America or just visiting and you knock on a random door, statistically speaking, you are more likely to be greeted by a dog or a cat than you are to find a household with a traditional nuclear family structure.
That is a fascinating way to put it, and it's completely accurate.
It's wild.
It is. And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack that reality. We want to understand how we got from, the barnyard to the bedroom.
Right. From work to family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want to trace that arc from the animal as a worker, an employee, essentially, to the animal as a fur baby.
Fur baby. We'll get to that one.
We will. And we're going to look at the massive economy that has sprung up to service that shift.
And along the way, we're going to highlight some specific English vocabulary.
That's right. Words related to family dynamics, economics, and these broad social trends.
Perfect. So we're going to follow the money, but we're also going to follow the psychology.
Precisely.
Before we get into the history lesson, though, are there any specific terms or concepts our listeners should be, keeping in their back pocket as we go through this?
Yes, definitely. There are 4 key terms I want to flag up front.
Okay.
They'll act as signposts for where the conversation is going. The first is utilitarian. This is an adjective that describes something designed to be useful or practical rather than attractive. It's all about function.
Got it. What's next?
The second is humanization.
Humanization. Okay, that one seems pretty self-explanatory.
It does. It's the sociological process of projecting human qualities, needs, and rights onto non-human entities.
Which is basically the story of the last 20 years.
Exactly. The third is premiumization.
Premiumization. Sounds like a business word.
It is. A business term we'll get into when we talk about money. And the last one is a really useful idiom. Social lubricant.
Social lubricant. I like that one. It sounds a bit mechanical, but I know it applies to people.
It does.
Okay, let's dive into section 1. Let's look at the evolution of the American pet, because I think there's a misconception that Americans have always been obsessed with their dogs in this specific emotional way.
Right.
Like, we imagine the pioneers crossing the Oregon Trail with their beloved lapdogs. But that isn't really accurate, is it?
No, it's a complete anachronism, a historical mismatch. If we look at the historical analysis, we can really break the American relationship with animals into 3 distinct eras.
Your eras.
And understanding these eras helps you understand the American mindset today. So the first era is what historians call the utilitarian era.
There's that word again?
Yep. This runs from the colonial period roughly up until the 1850s.
Utilitarian. So strictly for use, strictly for function.
Exactly. In this era, the concept of a pet, as we know it, an animal kept solely for pleasure, was virtually non-existent for the average person.
It just wasn't a thing.
No. If you were a settler or a farmer, every mouth you fed had earned its keep. It was a harsh calculation.
So dogs weren't sleeping in the bed?
Definitely not. They were tools. They were hunters, herders, or guardians protecting the livestock from wolves.
Right. And cats weren't there to look cute on Instagram?
No, they were there to murder mice in the grain stores.
To put it bluntly.
To put it bluntly, yes. In fact, there's a historical example that always shocks people.
Oh.
In the 18th century, there was a specific type of dog called a turnspit dog.
Turnspit dog?
It was a short-legged dog, bred specifically to run on a wheel, like a hamster wheel.
Uh-huh.
Which turned the roasting spit over the fire in the kitchen.
Wait, so the dog was literally a kitchen appliance?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
A piece of machinery.
Wow.
And when the technology improved and we invented mechanical rotisseries, the turnspit dog went extinct.
Just gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
Because it no longer had a utilitarian function. That shows you how transactional the relationship was.
It really does.
Keeping an animal just for fun was a luxury that only the extreme elite, the aristocracy, could afford.
Right.
If you were working class, feeding a non-productive animal was seen as wasteful, almost sinful.
That is a stark contrast to today. So we have the animal as a tool, but then we hit the mid-19th century, the 1850s.
Right.
The Industrial Revolution is happening. Cities are growing. What changes in the culture?
This brings us to era number 2, the domestic ideal.
The domestic ideal.
This lasted from roughly 1850 to 1945, right around the end of World War II. The shift here was driven by the post-Victorian mindset and the rise of the middle class.
Okay, so more people have a little extra money.
Exactly. Suddenly, people had a little bit of disposable income. They didn't need the dog to churn the butter anymore.
So the dog loses its job, but it gains a home.
It gains a new job, actually.
A new job.
The job becomes education, specifically moral education for children.
Interesting. So the dog becomes a sort of live-in tutor for the kids.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to remember the Victorians were obsessed with morality and character building.
Right.
They started to view pets as a tool for teaching children values.
What kind of values?
Well, the key vocabulary words that appear in the literature from this time are kindness and stewardship.
Stewardship. That's a great word. A bit old-fashioned.
It is a beautiful word. It means the responsible supervision or taking care of something.
I see.
The theory was, if a young boy learns to practice stewardship over a dog, if he learns to be kind to a helpless creature, he will grow up to be a kind, responsible father and citizen.
That's actually a really logical progression. It makes the pet a signifier of a good home. It's not just about the animal. It's about what the animal says about you as a family.
Exactly. It became a domestic virtue. But
oh, what?
The animal was still the animal. It lived in the doghouse outside. It wasn't eating at the table.
That boundary was still there.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And that boundary didn't really dissolve until we hit era number 3.
The humanization era.
Yes. The humanization era. This really began to bubble up in the post-war period, but it accelerated aggressively in the 1990s and has just skyrocketed up to today, 2026.
Okay, so this is our modern era.
This is the current state where pets are legally, socially, and emotionally viewed as family members.
And we aren't just saying family as a metaphor here. We have data on this.
The data is overwhelming. By 2024, surveys showed that 93% of pet owners considered their pets to be legitimate parts of the family.
93%. Almost everyone.
And 56% described them as central to their home life.
Central is a heavy word. It means the household revolves around them.
It does.
And this brings us to a term that I see everywhere now. I admit I used to roll my eyes at it, but I've come to accept it as a valid sociological term.
I think I know which one.
Fur baby.
Fur baby. It is a compound word. Fur plus baby.
It sounds a little infantile, doesn't it? But it does legitimate work in the language. It signals a specific relationship.
It does. It implies that the animal has the same status, the same needs, and carries the same emotional weight as a human infant.
Right.
It allows people, especially younger generations, to signal that they are caregivers and parents without actually having human children.
That's crucial cultural context for an English learner.
It really is. If you are at a dinner party in New York or Los Angeles and someone shows you a picture of a French bulldog and says, "This is my son," they are not being ironic. They're being literal about their emotional attachment.
That is a key distinction. You have to treat that statement with the same respect you would if they showed you a human child. You can't laugh.
You definitely should not laugh.
So we've established the emotional shift. We've gone from the barn to the nursery.
Right.
But emotions drive economics. If you view a dog as a tool, you buy it the cheapest fuel possible. If you view it as your child, price is no object.
Precisely.
Let's move to Section 2 and talk about the pet-anomy in hard dollars, because the numbers here are, frankly, staggering.
They are. In 2025, the total expenditure for the pet industry in the United States reached a record $157 billion.
$157 billion. Just to contextualize that for our listeners, that is larger than the GDP of many mid-sized nations.
It's enormous. It's more than we spend on childcare in some contexts.
That's unbelievable.
It is a massive sector. And if we break down where that money is going, we learn a lot of vocabulary related to modern commerce.
Okay, so where's it going?
The biggest slice of the pie, unsurprisingly, is pet food and treats. That accounted for $67.8 billion.
$67.8 billion. But we aren't talking about a 50-pound bag of dry corn nuggets anymore, are we?
No. And this is where the language of humanization meets the supply chain. The vocabulary has shifted to fresh, human grade, and super premium.
Human grade? I see that on packaging now. It implies that if I got hungry enough, I could heat up my dog's dinner and it would be edible.
Theoretically, yes. It meets the same FDA safety standards as your food.
Wow.
But the analysis here is fascinating. People are buying refrigerated, fresh-cooked meals, beef, sweet potatoes, kale, that are delivered to their door on dry ice.
So it's like a meal kit service, but for dogs.
Exactly. And in many cases, the nutritional profile of the dog's diet is better than the owner's diet.
I can believe that.
You might be eating a processed frozen pizza while your dog is eating grass-fed steak.
That is the ultimate expression of love, I guess, or maybe it's a projection of our own health anxieties onto the dog. I can't eat healthy, but by God, Buster will.
There is definitely a psychological element of control there.
Sure.
But the spending isn't just on food. The second biggest category is veterinary care, which hit over $39 billion.
$39 billion, and I assume that's getting more complex, too.
Much more. This is where we see the most technological advancement. We aren't just talking about rabies shots and deworming.
No!
We are seeing advanced medical terms applied to pets. Words like diagnostics, oncology, and specialty surgeries.
Oncology. Cancer treatment for pets.
Yes. Chemo for dogs. Radiation therapy. MRI scans.
And this connects to why the costs are so high. I was reading about how private equity firms have bought up a lot of independent vet clinics, but beyond that, it's the standard of care.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if an MRI exists for a dog, and you view the dog as a child, you feel obligated to pay for the MRI.
Exactly. It creates a moral pressure. If the technology is there, can you refuse it? That drives the spending up.
It's a tough position for owners.
It is. Then you have supplies and over-the-counter medications, another $34 billion.
Okay, what falls in that category?
This includes things like wearable tech and calming products.
Calming products. We are medicating the anxiety of our pets now.
We are. CBD chews, pheromone diffusers. We have realized that our modern urban lifestyles are stressful for us, so we assume they're stressful for our pets too.
To be fair, they probably are.
They probably are. And finally, we have pet services.
Pet services.
Yes, over $15 billion. This is the vocabulary of luxury. We are talking pet hotels, daycare, and professional grooming.
I love the linguistic shift from kennel to hotel.
Words matter. A kennel is a cage. It sounds penal. It sounds industrial.
Right, like a prison.
But a pet hotel implies hospitality. It implies that your dog is on vacation while you are on vacation.
And people are willing to pay a premium for that narrative.
A huge premium.
Which transitions us perfectly into Section 3. Because all of this, the fresh food, the MRIs, the hotels, it falls under a broader business trend you mentioned earlier.
Premiumization.
Premiumization.
Correct. Premiumization is the tendency to move consumers from the standard mass market option to the premium higher margin option.
So getting you to buy the more expensive version.
In the pet world, it means providing pets with the same quality of life or higher as humans.
And who is driving this? My instinct says it must be wealthy boomers with empty nests and disposable income.
That's what you'd think, but the data suggests otherwise.
Really?
It does. The primary drivers are actually the younger generations. Millennials make up 30% of this market, and Gen Z is about 20%.
Which is paradoxical, right? Because these are the generations that are famously struggling financially.
Exactly. They are locked out of the housing market, they have student debt.
Yet they are the ones buying the $80 bag of food.
It seems paradoxical, but it makes sense when you apply the starter child theory.
The starter child theory, explain that.
For many in these generations, economic precarity means they are delaying marriage and delaying having human children.
So pets fill that void.
They are starter children, or in some cases, permanent replacements. So even if you can't afford a house, you can afford to spoil a dog. It's an accessible form of parenting.
That is a really sharp insight. It changes the meaning of parenting in English. It expands the definition.
It does.
And I guess that explains the celebration culture we are seeing.
Yes. The data shows that 34% of Gen Z owners celebrate their dog's birthday.
1 in 3.
And they aren't just saying good boy, they are buying pupcakes.
Pupcakes? Of course they are.
Another portmanteau. Pup plus cupcake, they are hosting parties. They are inviting other dogs. It's a social event.
I have to admit, I went to a dog birthday party last month.
Oh, you did?
And I stood there eating a slice of human cake while the dogs ate their pupcakes, and I realized this isn't for the dogs. The dogs don't know it's their birthday.
No.
This is for us. It's a ritual.
It is absolutely for the humans. It's a way to signal social status and to gather community. It's lifestyle integration.
Right. And it's not just parties. Look at the workplace.
I was just about to bring that up. In 2026, 14% of workplaces allow pets. That is up 17% since 2023.
That is a huge jump. Bring your dog to work used to be a once-a-year novelty day.
Now it's a hiring perk.
A major one.
It is a requirement for some talent. If you want to hire a top-tier Gen Z coder, you might need to let him bring his Frenchie to the office.
And what about travel?
25 million owners take pets on vacation. The travel industry has had to pivot. We have pet-friendly hotels as a standard filter on booking sites. We even have airline pet lounges now.
A pet lounge. Just the image of a dog waiting for a flight in a VIP lounge is... It's something else.
It sounds funny, but it solves a logistical problem.
How so?
If you are traveling with a child that happens to be a dog, you need infrastructure. You need relief areas. You need water stations. Society is physically being rebuilt to accommodate the fur baby.
So we have the history, the money, the lifestyle, but I want to get to the why. Section 4 is about mental health and wellness, because we aren't just doing this because it's trendy. We are doing it because we are getting something out of it biologically.
This is the core of it. The human-animal bond is now a recognized medical asset.
A medical asset.
The NIH, the National Institutes of Health, has funded extensive studies on this. The science shows that pet ownership significantly reduces cortisol levels.
Cortisol, that's the stress hormone, right?
Exactly. We live in a high cortisol world. Constant notifications, economic stress, political noise.
It's a lot.
It is. And physical contact with an animal petting a dog, hearing a cat purr physically lowers that hormone and releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone.
So the dog is a biohack. It's an organic anti-anxiety device.
In a clinical sense, yes.
Right.
It also forces physical activity, which combats depression.
That's a good point. You can't stay in bed all day if the dog needs to pee.
You really can't.
Yeah.
They force you to engage with the world.
Which leads to that idiom you mentioned at the top of the show.
Social lubricant.
Social lubricant. Let's unpack this idiom.
Okay. A lubricant in mechanics is oil that reduces friction between moving parts.
Right. It stops the engine from seizing up.
So a social lubricant is something that reduces the friction of human interaction.
And we have a lot of social friction these days.
We do. We have an epidemic of loneliness and urban isolation. People live in crowded apartment buildings but don't know their neighbors.
A dog changes that.
It changes that dynamic instantly. If you walk into a park alone, you're a stranger, maybe even a threat.
But if you walk in with a golden retriever,
you're approachable.
It's the ultimate icebreaker. I've met more people in my neighborhood in the 6 months since I got a dog than I did in the 5 years prior.
See.
Someone stops you and asks, what breed is he? And suddenly you're having a conversation.
Exactly. It builds weak ties, those casual social connections that make a community feel safe and connected. The dog is the bridge.
But of course, because this is 2026, we can't just walk the dog.
Oh, no.
We have to track the dog. Oh. Section 5. Modern trends and technologies. The smart pet.
This is where Silicon Valley meets the kennel. The smart pet market is exploding.
I've seen these.
We are seeing a massive adoption of wearable biometric monitors.
So a Fitbit for Fido.
Basically, smart collars that track heart rate, sleep patterns, and caloric burn. But the function here is predictive health.
Predictive health. What does that mean?
The algorithms are getting so good that they can detect illness before the dog shows symptoms.
That is wild. So your phone buzzes and says the dog is sick before the dog even acts sick.
Yes. It might notice that the dog's sleep quality has dropped by 15% and his resting heart rate is up. That triggers a notification.
It gives the animal a voice.
That's a great way to put it.
That is incredibly valuable, especially since they can't talk. And I assume this ties into how we shop.
Completely. 51% of pet owners now shop exclusively online.
Over half.
They want the convenience. This has fueled the subscription economy. You don't buy food when you run out. You subscribe to a service that predicts when you will run out and ships it to you.
It's the Amazon-ification of pet care.
Pretty much.
But what about the vet? We talked about how expensive it is. Is tech helping there?
It is trying to. This is the rise of televet services.
Televet.
Because veterinary costs rose 7.8% in 2025 alone, people were desperate for a cheaper entry point.
Yeah.
So we saw the adoption of telehealth for pets.
Zoom calls with a vet.
Exactly. And it's primarily for triage.
Triage. That's a medical term usually used in emergency rooms, right?
It is. It means sorting patients based on urgency.
Okay.
In this context, you get on a video call at 2:00 a.m. because your dog ate a chocolate bar. The televet could look at the dog, ask questions, and tell you, yes, you need to go to the ER right now. Or,
no, he'll be fine. Just watch him.
Exactly.
Our peace of mind is worth a lot, and it keeps the emergency rooms clear for the real emergencies.
That's the idea.
But...
Yeah.
Okay. We've painted a pretty rosy picture here. We have smart collars, fresh food, emotional support. It can't all be perfect. Let's move to Section 6, societal impact and challenges. Because an industry this big creates problems.
It does. It is not all cupcakes and parties. There are real structural issues. The first one is the housing crisis.
This is a massive topic in general. News, high rents, high interest rates. How is it impacting pets specifically?
Well, as housing becomes more expensive, people are living in smaller spaces, and landlords are becoming stricter or charging high pet rents.
Right. I've seen those.
This has caused a shift in the pet mix.
The pet mix. Okay.
Yes. Dog ownership has actually declined slightly in dense urban areas because it's just too hard to have a dog in a 400-square-foot studio.
Sure.
But cat ownership is surging. Cat-only households rose from 14 million in 2018 to 16 million in 2024.
The rise of the cat. It makes sense. They're the perfect apartment economy pet. They don't need a yard. They don't need a walk.
Exactly. They fit the economic reality better. But there's a darker economic reality, too.
Okay.
We call it the K-shaped pet economy.
Okay. I know this term from general economics. A K-shaped recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the letter K. The vertical line splits. One arm goes up, one arm goes down.
That is the visualization. It describes inequality.
And how does that apply to pets?
In the pet world, the upper arm of the K represents wealthy owners who can afford the human-grade food, the televet subscriptions, and the $10,000 oncology treatments.
Right.
Their pets are living longer, healthier lives than ever before.
And the lower arm?
The lower arm represents lower-income owners who love their pets just as much, but are being priced out of basic care.
Because of the inflation.
Right. Veterinary inflation is outpacing national inflation. So you have people surrendering pets to shelters simply because they can't afford a minor surgery or dental work.
That is heartbreaking. It implies that pet ownership, or at least responsible pet ownership as defined by these new standards, is becoming a class privilege.
It is a valid concern. And this ties into the final challenge, the shelter paradox.
Paradox meaning a contradiction.
Yes. Culturally, the movement Adopt Don't Shop is at an all-time high.
You see it everywhere on social media.
Exactly. Everyone is posting about their rescues. It is socially cool to have a rescue dog.
But statistically?
Statistically, over 3 million dogs still enter U.S. shelters annually.
So the vibe is save them all, but the numbers say we are still failing.
Exactly. We have a disconnect between our cultural ideal and our operational reality. We love the idea of rescue, but we're still dealing with massive overpopulation in certain regions.
It sounds like the petonomy has some serious growing pains.
It does.
It's a mature industry, but it still has these deep flaws.
It does. But the fact that we're even debating these things, that we're worried about the equity of veterinary care, shows how deeply ingrained these animals are in our society.
That is a great point. We wouldn't care about the K-shaped economy of toaster ovens.
No.
We care because they're living beings. So we have covered a huge amount of ground today. From the utilitarian barn cats of the 1800s to the biometrically monitored fur babies of 2026.
It's a long journey.
If you had to synthesize this for our listeners, what is the big takeaway?
I would synthesize it like this. In 2026, American pet culture is the ultimate expression of two very American values.
Okay, what are they?
Individualism and empathy.
Individualism and empathy. How so?
Individualism, because Americans are curating their lives and their families exactly how they want. They're rejecting the traditional script, get married, have kids, and writing their own script.
The script of get a dog, travel, build a community.
Exactly. And the empathy.
Yeah.
The empathy is in the expansion of the moral circle. It reflects a society that is perhaps a bit lonely, yes,
Sure,
but one that deeply desires connection. We have redefined the family unit to include kin relatives of a totally different species.
We've decided that a dog is not a tool, but a soul.
That's a profound way to put it. We have legally and culturally granted personhood to our companions.
And economically, it's resilient.
Incredibly so. Even when the economy is shaky, the petonomy stays strong.
Yeah.
People might cut back on their own Starbucks or their own vacations, but they will rarely cut back on the quality of their dog's food.
It's a recession-proof expression of love.
It is.
Incredible. Well, listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a completely new perspective on the furry friend sleeping at your feet right now.
I hope so.
You've learned some history, some complex economics, and hopefully a lot of new English vocabulary. From utilitarian to petonomy to social lubricant.
Yes. Challenge yourself. Try to use humanization or premiumization in a sentence this week.
Or just tell someone about the turnspit dog.
That is always a good conversation starter.
And here is a final provocative thought for you to mull over as you go about your day.
Okay.
If pets are now legally and socially considered family, and if this industry is bigger than the GDP of entire nations, how will this reshape our laws in the next 10 years?
That's a big question.
We already have pet custody battles in divorce courts. Will we see government-mandated pet leave from work? Will we see tax credits for dependents who happen to have 4 legs?
Paternity leave and a dog tax credit. I wouldn't bet against it.
I wouldn't either. Thank you all for listening to Dr. English. Keep learning, keep curious, and we will catch you in the next deep dive.
Goodbye, everyone.